Sounding Fluent.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is RMUTP English Online. Welcome to the first episode of Sounding Fluent, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. I'm your host, Seksit Petchinaler, a lecturer of English serving the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Ratchamankala University of Technology, Pranakon, Bangkok, Thailand, better known as RMUTP. Every week, I'm going to talk about things that will help you improve your communicative competence in English. Or to put it simply, I just want to inspire everybody listening to get comfortable and to be more confident when it comes to communication with others. Hence the name of my show, Sounding Fluent. But before we get to that, every week, ladies and gentlemen, I'll keep you updated with one of our latest news articles revolving around RMUTP. During March the 7th to 9th, 2023, the Department of Applied Thai Faculty of Liberal Arts, RMUTP, held its 6th Language and Literature Camp on Poetry, Documentary, and Life at Jet Sao Noi Waterfall National Park in Saratburi Province. The camp was presided over by the Dean of the Faculty of Liberal Arts, RMUTP, Assistant Professor Yuttapum Suwarnavet, who also composed and kindly read the Ballad of River from Lan Chang Kingdom to the Mekong, together with Dr. Sawarot Sermpornviwat, an RMUTP Applied Thai alumnus and the chair of the RMUTP Liberal Arts Alumni Association. 3 more distinguished guests were also invited to share their experience and expertise in the field. The guests included Ms. Nattapon Komjit, aka Chef Kamnang, whose topic concerned traditional Isan cuisine, language for creative communication for a sustainable world. Mr. Banchong Burin Prakon on life and poetry, writing a story on a piece of paper. And Mr. Shawanakon Kaokan, aka Nat Nak Deun Thang, with tips and tricks on how travel can become prose. Head of the Department of Applied Thai, Ms. Wilailak Tangam, stated that surroundings do affect the way one studies. Hence the idea of the camp, whose primary purpose was to maximize students' learning potential and learning Thai language skills in the natural environment where students' creativity and motivation in language learning were believed to be stimulated more effectively. However, the camp not only generated tremendously positive changes on the students' academic level, but on their physical, emotional, and social level as well. All right. In today's episode of Sounding Fluent, we're going to be talking about how you can become a fluent English speaker. In just 1 year, you guys. Wow, how is that possible? Dying to know, right? Let's get right into it. But first of all, I have to thank Ramsey Lewis from betterhumans.pub for the information I'm about to share with everybody here. Well, learning a language is hard, but you can get fluent if you want to. You don't have to do boring grammar exercises or pay expensive classes to do it. And you don't need to move to a different country. But if you want to, be my guest. Now, why do we have to learn a language? Since you have to invest a lot of time and effort, like hundreds of hours, why would you go through that trouble, especially when translation software is getting better and better? Here are a few good reasons. First, it makes you smarter. It's quite obvious that studying a foreign language seems to improve brain function, including cognition, memory, concentration, problem solving, and even the ability to multitask. There are also some studies that show bilingualism is associated with greater creativity and critical thinking. The benefits are especially the greatest for people who are bi or multilingual. But anyone studying a second language will possibly see improvements. Learning a language might also help your career. Wow! It's true that translation software is getting better and better. And it's also true that English is the language of business. If you speak English, you certainly don't need another language when it comes to international business. But still, business is increasingly globalized. And you have to admit that translation software isn't perfect yet. Knowing another language may not be essential for English speakers, but it's increasingly useful. Indeed, Some research suggests U.S. college students that speak a second language are able to achieve a salary about 2 to 3% higher than those that don't. People not only appreciate those able to speak a second or third language, but they're more likely to do business with them. And if you are applying for a job and you have similar qualifications to someone else, but also speak a second language, that will help your application to a certain degree. And can you believe that learning a language can help your social life as well? Language is fundamental for communicating. Knowing another language can help you connect with others in a deeper way. It's a rewarding experience to be able to understand a person in their own language and genuinely see their personality. Yes, learning a language is quite hard, but it opens doors, both professionally and personally. Learning language isn't a complex task, but there's some things to know about it. Here's a set of principles that will help you learn a language effectively and build your language learning program. Know your why, WWHY. Why? You'll find it difficult to continue if you're not clear on why you're doing it. There are lots of reasons that people may want to learn a language, and they will be different from person to person. You need to consider why you want to learn a language. Maybe you want to be able to have unique travel experiences, or maybe you're living in a country and you want to be able to chat with your neighbor, or maybe your partner's family doesn't speak English at all and you want to make a good impression. After knowing your why, you better set a goal. There's a lot of evidence that setting a goal and regularly returning to it is important for actually accomplishing the goal. So before you start, make a goal for yourself. Your goals could be skill-based, like I want to be able to have a conversation about food in English, or based on a test level, like I want to be ranked at a B2 in the CEFR in speaking ability in English. Whatever your goal is, make sure you write it down and track it. Once the goal has been set, you've got to practice each skill. There are 4 skills you need to master to be fluent in English: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. But to get fluent, you should work at each of these skills, but also consider what your own interests are. For a lot of people, the ability to write in a language is not as important as the ability to speak. If that's you, just focus your practice on speaking, listening, and reading. But please be aware that things take time to improve and become a success. Without persistence, you never get past that first hurdle. Getting fluent will take regular practice. The good news is, you can practice with things you already do every day, like scrolling through Twitter, Facebook, reading the news, watching YouTube, or listening to podcasts. Mine is watching wrestling. But set yourself up to be persistent by thinking about how you're going to build language practice into your daily life. Using activities that you already do will help you keep at it for a whole year, for much longer. To accomplish all of that, you need time, everybody. How long it takes depends on how effectively you learn and how often you practice. Some people say you can get fluent in 3 or 6 months. As a language teacher himself, Lewis said that he had never seen someone get fluent that quickly. Neither have I. But if you invest at least an hour or 2 every day, it's reasonable to get fluent that fast. And don't get embarrassed when making mistakes. Honestly, the biggest challenge that a lot of people face in learning a language is that they think they shouldn't make any mistake at all. Now, get past that idea right now, people. Mistakes are a crucial and necessary part of language learning. Trying to be perfect will only end up slowing down your learning. Go out there and make mistakes. Even make the same mistakes hundreds of times. If you persist, you will eventually end up making fewer and fewer mistakes. Hard work paid off, right? Now, let's talk about the schedule. If you invest 1 or 2 hours a day in actively learning English using the following schedule, you can get to a C1 level in a year. Now, listen carefully, guys. Week 1. Set yourself up for success. Get started at the beginning to set yourself up for success. Do these things in your first week. Write down your language goals. You need to identify why you want to learn English and create goals for yourself. This will help you focus and stay motivated. Take a moment to do those things before you do anything else. Then take a test. It's really motivating to see your progress. So, take a moment to find an online test in English to get a sense of where you're starting from. You can find a test by Googling Test Your English. Keep in mind that online tests aren't always super accurate and usually focus on reading and writing. Consider doing a few different tests and taking the average level. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You just want to get a sense of where you are at now so you can see your progress over time. And it's best to make a vocabulary journal. You need to have a way to review words that you learn. Just do this with a paper notebook. But there are a lot of other options as well, especially online ones. It doesn't matter what your method is, but create a system for recording and reviewing vocabulary. If you're starting at the very beginning, your goal is to learn your first couple hundred words and the basic grammatical structures for the present tense. These usually come together. To do this effectively, go online and look for the most common 500 words in English. Try to plan your week so you spend at least an hour using English every day. You don't need to use each of the 4 skills every day, but make sure that throughout the week, you're using all of the skills at least a few times. Continue to use your vocabulary journal or app to record the words that you're learning. And if possible, find a speaking buddy. Try to start using English as soon as you can. If you are a native English speaker, it's easy to find a speaking buddy. There are tons and tons of people out there that want to speak to a native English speaker. Free and paid options to find a speaking buddy or tutor are, for example, My English Exchange, Conversation Exchange, Speaky, Hi Native, Polyglot Club, and that's just to name a few. At this level, you want to practice the very basics. Learn how to greet people, how to say goodbye, and how to ask about the weather, the time, someone's age, and about someone's family. If you master that stuff, you can then move into ordering food at the restaurant, asking for directions, etc. If you do these things for at least an hour a day, every day, for the whole month, you should get to an A1 level. You'll be able to understand and use everyday expressions and very basic phrases and introduce yourself as well as ask and answer questions about personal details. You should also be able to interact in a simple way provided that the other person talks slowly and clearly and helps you. Month 2 and 3, expand on the basics. You've got the basics now, so you need to really start using the language. Don't think of the language as an academic subject like psychology or philosophy. Think of the language as a tool to use. The purpose of language is to communicate with others. So, to be good at a language, you need to practice using it to communicate. You need to speak, whether or not you feel comfortable. Try to get involved in a speaking practice session at least twice a week. And you will want to start listening too. At an A1 level, find a podcast that you really like. You will probably want to find the one that is designed for language learners because they speak slower and it'll be easier to understand. Look around until you find the one you really like listening to. You can also find easy videos on YouTube. You also need to find reading exercises online. These can be simple articles with key vocabulary. You can also do this with social media by following native speakers of your target language on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and read what they post. Also, change your phone to be in English. Then you can start practicing writing basic sentences. You can start by writing simple comments on social media. You can also keep your journal where you write basic phrases about your day or how you're feeling. If you have a friend who speaks English, why don't you just send them text messages in English? If you follow this program diligently for 2 months, you should be able to understand the main points of clear input on matters like work, school, and leisure. You should be able to deal with most situations likely to arise while traveling, like asking for food or making a reservation. You should be able to produce simple language on topics that are familiar or of personal interest. You should also be able to describe experiences and events, dreams, hopes, and ambitions. If you feel comfortable doing those things, you are at a B1 level. At this point, it is recommended that you should retake a test to see how much you have progressed. Now, month 4 to 6, you are expected to get comfortable using English. Here, your goal is to get more comfortable using the language and to continue expanding your vocabulary. You still want to practice all the skills, but you can use more advanced texts. It's not really a good idea primarily learning a language by studying grammar, but at this level, it's worth taking at least a bit of time to learn how to talk about events in the past and in the future. You will certainly have come across the past and future tenses by now, but it's worth learning how to use them properly at this level. Make that your focus when doing these activities. Now that you have already been speaking with someone, right? Continue that. Consider also going to a meetup in your city for learning the language, or start a conversation club of your own with friends and colleagues. Another option if you want more speaking practice is to do shadowing. At a B1 level, you can start listening to podcasts or radio shows that aren't about the language itself. Leonardo English is a great example of this for people learning English because the content is engaging and the host has transcripts and key vocabulary available to follow along. Slow news in English is another option. Try to find something by native speakers that is slow enough that you can understand at least 50% of it, and that's interesting enough that you will want to keep listening to. Since you are at a level where you can read things you like, choose a book that you love and find it in English. Try to read things you really like at this level. This is because it'll be difficult and it could be frustrating to read some more challenging texts in another language. If you're reading something you have already read and that you like, you will more likely to persist even when it's hard. The trick is, don't try to understand everything. It's just to keep going and give yourself lots of language input. If you're especially motivated, look up new words while reading. Another option at this level is to find Wikipedia articles in English about something or someone you are interested in. Children's books are also good. But please, start journaling because it's pretty easy. Another great option is to write emails. Social media comments are, without a shadow of a doubt, a good opportunity here. If you have followed this schedule diligently, you will have been practicing for 6 months. You should be at a B2 level. You'll be able to understand the main ideas of complex text on both concrete and abstract topics. You'll be able to interact with a degree of fluency and that makes regular interaction with native speakers possible without much strain. You'll be able to produce clear, detailed language on a wide range of subjects. And you'll be able to explain your views on a topical issue. Now take another test here to check your progress. Month 6 to 12. Now you're trying to get from an intermediate level to being proficient. At this point, the focus should be on trying to use English to do the things you would normally do, like watching movies, reading the news, practicing in Twitter threads. You can look up new words or grammatical structures when you're not sure about something. But in general, just focus on engaging with texts about things that interest you. People that focus on trying to memorize grammar rules get frustrated and don't progress. Instead, focus on using the language to connect with people, the culture, or ideas that interest you. You should already have a way to speak with someone, either in person or online. It's worth trying to find a variety of different people at this level, perhaps with different accents. Also, rather than just talking about anything that comes up, make an effort to talk about unfamiliar topics. Guide yourself into uncharted language territory. You can use the news or current affairs to help you. Think about telling stories about the past, talking about what you want to do in the future, or talking about what you would do if something happened, and so on. At a B2 level and up, listen to native speakers speaking at a normal pace. You can find news channels in your target language or listen to the radio. TuneIn is a great option for finding radio in your target language. Podcasts are excellent for helping you learn a language. You can also watch TV and movies, but try not to watch them with English subtitles because you will end up just reading the subtitles and not listening. You might not understand everything, but you'll learn so much faster. With reading skills, start to read the things you would be reading anyway, but in English. Read the news in English or read new books in English. Choose texts that are challenging but not frustrating. When it comes to writing, keep doing what you're doing. Write basic emails, letters, and journal entries. Just aim to practice the new language forms you are learning. But if you are serious about improving your writing, try also doing translations. Take an article you like and try to translate it into your target language. Or even better, write an article yourself. Get a native speaker friend to edit it and then revise. At this point, if you have spent an hour or more every day for a year, you should be at a C1 level and be proficient in English. You should be able to understand a wide range of demanding, longer clauses and recognize implicit meanings. You'll be able to express ideas fluently and spontaneously without searching much for expressions and be able to produce clear, well-structured, detailed texts on complex subjects. Language gets rusty if you don't use it. If you want to continue to maintain your language, make an effort to continue to use it regularly. This can mean continuing to have regular conversations with native speakers, continuing to listen to podcasts or watch movies in the language, and continuing to read in English. If you do these things at least semi-regularly, you should be able to maintain your language at a C1 level. Do you want to keep going to get that C2 level? Continue engaging with texts from a native speaker. Search for increasingly challenging texts and subjects you're not familiar with. Maybe getting into academic subjects that interest you. Maybe even read scientific articles. Including regular reading and listening will help you develop your vocabulary as well. Learning a foreign language is an extremely rewarding pursuit. It's difficult and it takes time, but it's worth it and you can do it. Hope you guys got some insights from today's episode. This is RMUTP English Online. I'm Sexit Petchinalert and you can see me on Sounding Fluent every Tuesday at 1 p.m. See you next week. Thank you everyone for listening. Bye for now.
Sounding Fluent.